Well, welcome to the 700 Club. Voters in Iowa and New Hampshire have had their say in the Republican presidential primaries. Up next is South Carolina, and a week from tomorrow, the people there will get their chance.
So what do voters in the Palmetto State think? Paul Strand talked to some of them to find out what they're looking for in the next president.
Leave behind all that Iowa corn and New Hampshire snow. Now it's time to go deep, as in Deep South. Up to bat first, South Carolina.
The first in the South primary is quite important, and the presidential candidates know it. They spent months on end crisscrossing the state, trying to shore up votes before February 20th.
Folks here take their faith seriously, and you can get voters like Judy Selby riled up about threats to it.
Our pastor has been telling us, that our religious liberties are really in jeopardy. And so anybody that would fight for those, I think, would be a very important person to have in the White House. I don't think we have that now.
I think this is one of the top issues facing America today. If we lose religious freedom, all of the other freedoms that we hold dear will be lost with it.
Judy's son Mark is as worried as she is about threats to religious liberty.
So that's a major issue. I'm Second Amendment. I'm pro-life, anti-death, if you will. So those are some very significant issues to me. But the Supreme Court, even just national security. It's all very important to me.
Millennials have the potential to be a large voter bloc in this state, but many are up in the air, like Emma at this Ben Carson rally.
I just wanted to see what this candidate has to say.
Excited about her first election?
Yeah, I am. Yeah.
So's Kyle.
It's part of being a citizen, being part of the country. You get to have a say in who runs it.
Millennials are famous for hating the artificial, the prefab. Christian loves a candidate who just tells it straight.
It's matter of fact, it's in your face, it wakes you up, and that's what really we as millennials expect. We want somebody who's going to tell the truth and nothing but it without trying to pull the shade over our eyes.
Mark Selby falls into that conservative category, but doesn't talk politics much with friends.
Not all my friends are conservative, so I don't know that we have this conversation a lot. We avoid it sometimes.
But he's got his dad, Steve, whose conservative politics lead him to look for a very specific candidate.
One that'll turn America back to where it was before the last 7 years took effect.
Paul Strand, CBN News, reporting from Greenville.
Regardless of who you choose, please participate in the process. Exercise your right as a citizen to vote. Well, one leading Republican candidate tells CBN News that Christians need to make their voices heard at the polls. Charlene Aaron has that story from our CBN News desk.
Gordon, Republican presidential candidate Ted Cruz says Christian believers need to vote their biblical values rather than allowing non-believers to select America's future leaders. Our CBN News cameras got exclusive access inside a private meeting between Cruz and South Carolina pastors. Cruz is one of the candidates fighting for the state's evangelical voters. Afterwards, he spoke to CBN's David Brody about the importance of the Christian vote.
For far too long, Christians have been staying home, have been ceding the public square to non-believers. And when we look at the state of the country, when our heart weeps at what's happening to the country, and we wonder, why is it that the federal government is waging war on life, is waging war on marriage, is waging war on religious liberty? Is it any wonder when 54 million evangelical Christians stayed home in 2012, did not vote? If we allow our leaders to be selected by non-believers, we shouldn't be surprised when our leaders don't share our values. And so what I'm working to do more than anything else is energize and empower the grassroots and do everything we can to encourage Christians to stand up and vote biblical values.
Donald Trump and Senator Cruz are expected to compete for the top prize in South Carolina's presidential primary. David will have more from Cruz and other leading Republicans on Monday's 700 Club. Check out David's blog, The Brody File, for more on that interview. Well, Cruz and fellow Republican presidential candidate Ben Carson took the stage Thursday night at the Carolina Values Summit. The event focused on many of the issues facing urban cities in America, and it was moderated by CBN's David Brody. Cruz focused many of his remarks on the threat to religious liberty and family values like life and marriage. He also expressed support for changes to nonviolent sentencing guidelines. Dr. Carson told the story of making it out of his rough childhood. He also discussed how he believes Democratic policies are hurting the African-American community.
The progressives have tried to convince the African-American community that they cannot get by without them. and they've really created a culture of dependency. And it's really quite sad. We need to invest much more time in early development. We need to be looking at government programs that encourage families, because family, a full or complete family, is the best defense against poverty.
The summit was sponsored by the Reconciled Church Movement and the North Carolina Values Coalition. They believe the Christian faith must play a central role in helping urban America strike the delicate balance between righteousness and justice. While the two remaining Democratic presidential candidates faced off in another debate before their primary in South Carolina, Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders agreed on many points, but they also argued strongly over contributions from Wall Street and taking on terrorism and the war in Iraq.
I voted against the war in Iraq because I listened very carefully to what President Bush and Vice President Cheney had to say, and I didn't believe them.
I do not believe a vote in 2002 is a plan to defeat ISIS in 2016.
The South Carolina Democratic primary is on February 27th. Fighting terrorism was also a hot topic in Washington this week. The Department of Homeland Security is expanding its activities on social media to help take on terrorism. Secretary Jay Johnson says that the move comes as a response to growing concerns about people being radicalized online. Here's that story. The Department of Homeland Security is stepping up its efforts to stop terrorism at airports, ports, and on social media. Thursday, in his annual address, Homeland Security Secretary Jay Johnson promised to push an aggressive agenda in fighting terrorism. He pointed to the need to fight a new breed of terrorism and attacks that are harder to detect than traditional large-scale ones. He says such attacks require a new type of response.
We have moved from a world of terrorist-directed attacks to a world that includes the threat of terrorist-inspired attacks, in which the terrorist may have never come face to face with a single member of a terrorist organization, lives among us in the homeland, and self-radicalizes, inspired by something on the internet.
The department is also amping up social media screening of travelers and immigrants entering the U.S. in an effort to protect the country.
We are expanding the department's use of social media for various purposes. Today, social media is used for over 33 different operational and investigative purposes within DHS.
Homeland Security will share the intelligence they gather with the FBI to fight extremists. Meanwhile, a U.S. Senate committee has approved a bipartisan bill that would require the Obama administration to prepare a comprehensive strategy to fight terrorists' use of social media. A similar measure passed in the House in December. And the government may have another way of spying on possible suspects, or just about anyone for that matter, by getting information out of any device or appliance connected to the internet. Here's how it works. These days, anything from cars to TVs to household appliances like refrigerators, cell phones, thermostats, and more can be connected to the web. It's called the Internet of Things. James Clapper, the Director of National Intelligence, told the Senate that the government could hack into the Internet of Things and get all kinds of information. So your refrigerator could be watching you in the future. The government's plan could easily create new concerns about privacy in the digital age. And back to you.
The Internet of Things is already upon us, and the ability of these devices to communicate either where you are or what you're doing, or is your milk gone sour in your refrigerator. All of those things, if they're connected to the internet, all of it's hackable. And we've already, hackers have already proved that these cars that have these kinds of intelligent devices can be hacked, and they proved it. They took it out, took a test out on the road and found that they could control everything about that car. They could control the braking, they could control the acceleration. Those are very serious things going forward, and how do we make that secure? And how do you make that secure against a government? We've already seen what the NSA has been looking at already, and essentially anything that could be hacked was being hacked and was being monitored, was being collected. So as we get into this brave new world, are we really ready for everything around us that communicates to the internet to tell our government what we're doing.